In the last video, we talked about the very cheapest way I think you can run a Pro-Am season. But how much does it cost to build the car in the first place? Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome to another video here on the Cloud Motorsports YouTube channel, your source for open and honest information about the world of drifting. Today we're going to talk about how much it costs to build a competition drift car. Now I'm not going to go over everything today, and there are a few disclaimers that we have to say first. Before we get started, I'm going to make a few quick assumptions about you as a driver. Number one, you have no partnerships, no sponsorships, no help. Every dollar you spend is coming out of your pocket, and everything you buy is at full price. Assumption number two, you already have the truck, the trailer, the car to be competitive. That's a whole other video on itself. The car can be talked about later. Assumption number three, you actually want to be competitive. You don't want to be mid-pack, you don't want to be at the end, you want to be near the front or winning. And a small disclaimer is all of these numbers are ranges, they're not exact, they can fluctuate depending on certain costs at certain times. So please don't budget your entire season around what I'm saying here, just use this as a guide to start thinking about what you may need to do. I would also like to note in this particular video, I'm not going to be talking about anything that touches you as the driver, suit, gloves, helmet, Hans. No. Today we're talking about the things that have to go on the car, the required items, safety items. We're not talking about engine swaps, and we're also not talking about what chassis you should buy or how much that's going to cost, because there's too many variables. I'm not going to be able to tell you how much a certain chassis is going to cost from your local scrapyard versus a clean title wherever you may live. The values vary so widely across the United States that it's just a guess. So basically take all of this stuff and add the cost of your chassis to it at the end, and you get a start of what it looks like to build one of these. It's going to be a lot more money than what we say today. We're going to start the video off with the safety equipment. Now this is my personal favorite section because a lot of people like to argue about it, and personally I believe it's the best investment that you can make for yourself and your team. If you get seriously injured or you die, you can't drift. So let's take this with the approach of being pretty serious about your safety equipment and using it as the building blocks of the car rather than as an afterthought after you've done the rest of everything else. Number one in your building blocks of safety, and a literal building block of the car, is your roll cage. Forget the added stiffness and all the benefits that it gives the handling of your car. It also keeps the top, the sides, everything from crushing in on you under impact. There's a ton of ways to go about getting a roll cage in your car. You can buy kits, you can weld one yourself, you can do a mixture of the things, you can have a whole custom cage made. But all in all, we're going to expect maybe an average cost of a roll cage to be about $3,000. Step two of your car's safety system is going to be your fire suppression. Now you probably don't want to die a horrible fiery screaming death, so it's a good idea to have one anyway, but Formula Drift is going to require you to have it no matter what. As of today, the fire suppression system that's in both of my cars is $549.99 on Summit Racing. If you're going to drive in a Formula Drift sanctioned series, no matter what, you're going to have an FIA rated Halo seat, also known as a full containment seat. The cheapest one I could find on Summit Racing right now was $734.95. Now, if you're gonna have two seats in your car, you're gonna have two of those. If you wanna take the passenger seat out, that's fine, but if you have a passenger seat, it must also be an FIA rated seat. Also keep in mind that these seats expire every 5 years, so this is gonna be a purchase that you're gonna have to keep making. Now let's talk about the harnesses to actually hold you into the car. This is definitely not something to skimp on. So the example here that I'm gonna show is not necessarily the cheapest, it's just the cheapest that I would buy. Either way, you must have an SFI or FIA rated harness system. The SFI systems are going to expire every 2 years, while the FIA gives you a little bit more life with 5 years. You can order these right now on Summit Racing for $359.99. Now before we start talking about angle kits, it's important to remember that we are talking about competition drift cars. We are talking about purpose-built weapons, not people going out and learning how to drive. For my car, we have the FDF Race Shop Mega Mantis angle kit. I recommend FDF simply because they're exemplary customer support. You always have access to who you need to talk to, and they're a complete car support company. What I mean by that is they have parts from the front of my car to the back, and I mean that very literally. They have steering rack reinforcement braces all the way to the rear upper control arms and the mounts for my new Winners differential. You can get most of the stuff that you really need as far as hard parts for your car in that one location over at FDF Race Shop. Now again, I'm running the FDF Mega Mantis, and right now today on their website for my car, that's $1,999. The next thing you really need is a dual caliper handbrake. Now this is different from an inline because you have a separate set of calipers just dedicated to locking up your rear wheels. Trust me, it's better, it's worth the money, just spend it. The kits that I've found online today have a pretty wide range, but we're gonna say it costs you about $600. High quality suspension is definitely key to your success in drifting. There's a good argument to be made here that a very healthy amount of your budget could and should go towards suspension. There is a ton of options out there. You really can spend just about as much money as you want. Just make sure whatever you end up with has plenty of adjustability to actually be serviceable for you at the track. Things like silvers that are on this car, Feels, BC Racing are all gonna have great results and probably land you around $1,500. The last item we're gonna budget for is the maybes, the things that you might need based on whatever chassis you may have. Things like differential mount reinforcements or power steering rack reinforcements. Maybe your camber's just not quite right in the rear and you need a set of upper control arms in order to make it adjustable. There's probably at least another $1,000 of things that you need to account for. And again, this video is not to give you a full picture of what it costs to build a drift car, it's just to give you a framework of things to start budgeting on. In this video, we've obviously skipped over a ton of items of the things that you could buy for your drift car in favor of focusing on the things that you have to have in your competition drift car. Let me know if you have any further questions, shoot me a message on Instagram, drop me a comment below. I'll either message you back as quickly as I can or I'll make an entire video about it. I hope you guys have learned something today. I'll see you next time here on the Cloud Motorsports YouTube channel.